right, welcome to Ep.2 of Paperboy Ventures. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome two very interesting entrepreneurs to the show today. We have Rudy and Ila, co-founders of Parch Spirits Company. Thank you both for joining. It's a really exciting time in the non-alc spirits, non-alcohol whole world. Would love for you to say hello.
Course. Thanks for having us, Kyle. My name is Rudy Aldana. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Parch. We are non-alcoholic agave-based cocktails, and we've been in this journey only for a year and a half. But we're pretty excited about the trajectory and where we're heading, not only as a brand but as a movement with consumers like really getting to noticing a change in their drinking habits.
Hi, Kyle. Great to be here. I'm the other half of Parch, Ila Byrne. I cover marketing and innovation on the brand and super passionate about this space. I think it's always important to say that I still drink alcohol. I just drink 70% less alcohol than before, or since I've created Parch. And Rudy does not drink alcohol. So we bring two different perspectives to the creation of this product.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear. And I'll say, I drink alcohol. I want to drink less alcohol. I'm currently sipping on the spiced Pinot Rita from Parch, and it is delicious. It's a weeknight. I've got toddlers that wake me up at 5 a.m., so I really can't deal with any sort of hangover. Thank you for making the product. It's really good, and we'll talk for the next 25, 30 minutes about how this whole thing came together. So yeah, why don't we start there? Would love to just hear a bit about your background and the story, and really, what was the launch point for this? How did this happen?
Yeah, so I think both Al and I, we come from the spirits industry. It's been about 14 years of my life that I spent there. Prior to that, non-alcoholic companies as well. But I was working for a large multinational spirits company, and then I faced a diagnosis of a cancer diagnosis, which it was like quite in that moment, quite I got very shaken by it and realized that, of course, life could come to an end. And me being a father of four and driving my life in what I thought it was a healthy way, it was a surprise. So I got that and I realized, okay, we're going to try to save myself from this. And I'm going to go into treatment, recovery, and all that. And as part of that, made me change the things that I was eating, the things that I was doing, the sleep that I wasn't taking, and also the alcohol that I was drinking. So decided just to quit drinking, went into whole process, and after coming back, I'm here. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited about that opportunity, a second chance in life. And I decided that what I was doing in terms of managing the North American agave spirits portfolio might not be the best. I wouldn't be the best ambassador. So decided to shake hands, separate from the company, and then everything around me was my experience was always into adult beverages. So I thought to myself, what would be the best way of putting my effort, my energy, and I thought this space was the right one. So Isla, then I bump into Isla in the amazing way. She was also with Diageo. She'll tell you a story, but then she then separated as well, and we both decided to create this business, which the whole intent is to create something that is equivalent to an alcoholic drink that you have in your hands. So everything that you should look into it in terms of like provenance and branding and ingredients and everything that is positive. So we wanted to create that beverage. So this came like that. Isla will tell you more about it.
So Rudy's story is super powerful and obviously very, very moving. And I think when we both interacted on this relationship, and it was a client kind of relationship initially, I was delivering a project to his kind of quest to find something better out there that would fill this gap for him. I didn't really realize that I would be the consumer in the end as well. And I think what we discovered on this journey was the category of non-alc at the time. This is in 2020 in the middle of COVID. Really sucked. It was really a lot of essenced water, fruit juice, souped up sodas, nothing that felt credible or an alternative. And I really enjoy cocktails and cocktail bars and the ambiance of discovering new beverages and flavors. And I believed that if we were going to create something equally as delicious, we had to really push what non-alcoholic could be, not just deliver a non-alc or less than version of what was already in the market. And that's what I saw the market being defined as. It was always the cocktail minus the alcohol. And I wanted to create something that was really more than your expectations, full of good stuff, a surprise in the depth of flavor, design that really was appealing, no matter if you drank alcohol or not. And we, through our exploration and Rudy's personal story, we anchored ourselves in agave at the heart of this, but really understanding that agave itself, with the demand that's coming for tequila and mezcal, is under threat from overconsumption and the farming practices that go with the need to constantly deliver to higher demand. It means we compromise on the quality of the biodiversity in that landscape. If we look at what grows around agave, and there's conversations around harmonious plantings and things that actually enhance the soil rather than continue to degrade it, we can start to build recipes and flavor stories that work in sync with nature. And so our ethos from the start was really about what grows together goes together. It's a culinary adage that we both, Rudy and I, really subscribe to, coming from different parts of the world, myself from Europe and he from Latin America. It's somewhere that we were taught as we grew up to really eat seasonally, eat within a certain number of miles from where you live. And looking at what's happening to the climate, whether it's the warming planet, us expecting to have strawberries all year round, tomatoes that taste of nothing, we've really done such a disservice to the planet. We wanted to go back to the roots, go back to the plants that grow in a certain environment. For us, it was the desert, this particularly unique desert, the Sonoran Desert, that traverses northern Mexico, the southwestern US, and is one of the richest and biodiverse landscapes in the world. We met an incredible ethnobotanist there that really honed us on this journey. Jesus Garcia has been kind of our guru and mentor on biodiversity and what we can do with a planet that's warming. But if we manage water in the right way, we can create really, really beautiful fruit stocks. And so we use and highlight some of those ingredients in our products: the prickly pear, hibiscus, chamomile, lime, bitter citrus. They all grow plentifully in the Sonoran Desert when the water is correctly managed. So we're super excited to bring an amazing team and educate people on the kind of new ingredients we can bring to the fore, while also giving them something that's healthier to drink alongside, particularly tequila, or instead of alcohol if they've chosen to remove it completely.
Right. It's a fascinating story, and just looking at the product and the design and the branding, the if it grows together, it goes together. Framing, I think, is super powerful, and would love to chat more about that in a bit. Rudy, would love to start back on your story and how you decided to start this. So you had your diagnosis, and sounds like things have turned on the positive side for that. So glad to hear that. How long did it take you to develop the idea behind the brand, the product, settling on agave for what you wanted to choose as a primary ingredient? What can you talk about how that process came together and how long it took?
Yeah. It was, I mean, what I say is a long process. And if I thought I was always working in corporations and I always thought, oh, it would take too long. So we were fast in decisions with Isla. We were very fast in making decisions, which is great. But the circumstances around creating and designing a new beverage are complex, are difficult, because alcohol has believe it or not, has the virtue of delivering flavor, preserving a product, and also creating a functional effect. So now take ethanol out, try to make an adult drink that does somewhat similar, it has a similar impact in adults. So we were trying to work with liquids that have some mouthfeel, that can relate to it, that has some layers of flavor and some complexity. So I'd say we worked like for about 18 to 20 months in just the liquids. And also it was the middle of a pandemic, so there was a lot of back and forth, there was a lot of wait, there was a lot of restrictions, but we made it that it took that long. Now, from a decision concept, from like this came from a it's true story. Like this is I have a book that is called Alcohol in Ancient Mexico, and taught us a story about like early settlers like coming into that Sonoran Desert and really eating and drinking what they had around them, and that's how everything goes back to the honoring the ingredients that we decided to have. And then it was a matter of like Ila went to Joshua Tree, and then went to down to Tucson, and really saw the beauty in real life of the Sonoran Desert. And I did the same and realized that this is a wonderful terroir, a wonderful landscape that, I mean, is easily forgotten because it's the desert, so it's very dry. Well, we are a dry beverage. We are coming from a dry place, so that it took a while. And then of course agave. Why agave? Because agave is the same story. It's like it grows under. Of course, it's a plant. Of course, it has leaves, but it is what you eat is what you use as a raw material is underground. It's always hidden, and then there's it takes years to mature, and it takes like conditions that are like water sensitive, I guess. They're not the most water irrigation happening. So there's a lot of things that came into that, and then we tested, tried, and I have to say, Isla, she has a gift of really bringing to life a concept that really delights consumers, like she's done in the past. So nothing new and nothing unexpected. And then we got together with a creative studio, which they are partners as well, and they are the ones that brought to life everything that it was in our minds, let's say, and they even push it harder, and then they went to other places and they designed. So when you look at the design, a can tells you the story, exactly the story, what it is, what are the ingredients that we have, what is it, the treatment, the philosophy, the ethos that we have, and we're infused by botanicals and adaptogens.
I think
Yeah,
really,
it.
sorry, Kyle, I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
jump in because you missed a really important part,
Oh,
which is we actually started, remember we started with spirits, right? So
sorry,
our
yeah, of course.
plan, our original plan was to, and that's what we developed over that 18-month process, was spirits, which will come now in a year or so, 2024, 2025. But there are 750 ml bottles,
Non-alcoholic spirits, right?
Yeah, yeah,
non-alcoholic
yeah.
spirits, exactly, non-alcoholic spirits. And because it was COVID, the bars and restaurants, the on-premise was all closed. We were building this with bartenders, and we couldn't really get access to test in the on-premise, and we couldn't get glass, which was kind of amazing. But the glass manufacturing was at a standstill. We couldn't source any glass, or when we got our hands on some, it was gone the next day. So that was really challenging. And so that was a massive pandemic pivot to aluminum ready to drink cocktails, which were always in the plan, but we kind of were following a more traditional craft spirit approach of build them in the bar and then move to a more ready to drink position. I really love that we pivoted here, and this has always been something I'm passionate about, the canned ready to go space. At the same time, consumers have really taken this category in the alcohol space. So alcoholic canned cocktails, canned coffee, and obviously liquid death. So everything in aluminum has been growing really, really well. And so it's kind of a perfect segue into what we're doing now.
Ready to drink everything is on the rise, especially in aluminum cans. So I think the pandemic in that regard might have been a blessing for
Mhm.
where y'all got started with the business. But I really I can it's amazing. The thing that really drew me to the brand at first was the design, and it's very different than I'd say most other brands. And alc, non-alc, when you look at it, you can feel the desert really coming through the can, and it's so well done with the way that the name comes off the can and the text and just the overall design. So how did you land on Parch? Like, did you bring your design studio down to Joshua Tree? Like, I would love to hear a little bit more about that part of the story.
Yeah, well, personally, I'm obsessed with CPG packaging. And
Same.
so so it was always going to be something I felt very passionate about. But when we were looking for designers, and I knew we couldn't afford a big agency, and not that I wanted that either, I wanted to find someone who really understood the ethos of the brand and who we could really work with. I also knew that Rudy and I would make good judgment calls, but we're not designers. So I wanted to bring someone in who was here for the long haul. It wasn't just an assignment that they would hand over and then be gone. And I had come across this packaging. It was a limited release for the Australian fires, which were just before COVID, for one of my favorite brands, Mr. Black's, the espresso liqueur. So Mr. Black's coffee liqueur. And it was a limited edition with this koala on the front, and a percentage went to went to donations for the Australian victims of the Australian fire. And I looked up who did it, and it was this agency called Young Jerks. Two Dans. I live in Brooklyn. They lived in Greenpoint, right near where I live. And we set up a call. I set up an early, just kind of scouting call, check if I like their vibe. And I don't know, I think it's one of those things of happenstance. They're two of the most awesome people I've ever come across. Rudy and I knew immediately that we wanted them part of the Parch family. They absolutely understood what we were doing. We knew from their aesthetic, and they weren't very well known. They were very selective on the projects that they worked with, so they weren't too mainstream. Um, we just knew that they would get this. And like I said, we started with these bottles, which we can't wait to bring into the world one day. But the packaging and the amazing thing with cans, obviously you're holding the can and bringing it around with you. So that is fantastic for visibility. But you get a 4-pack, which, gives you so much real estate to work with, and branding. And we have a lot to say. I mean, not only do both of us talk a lot, but there's a lot of layers to the story. And again, like I said, with the liquid, you've got to work much harder for it to make a non-alcoholic taste good, but also to bring the credibility. And the kind of vision that I had shared before was, a lot of these were dumbed down, simplified, a cocktail minus the alcohol. We wanted to make it a cocktail plus so much more, and design was really part of that. And we're really proud to say that we've won amazing accolades from Dieline, and Penta Awards nominated us, and we ended up winning the best in the no and low category globally for new design. So we're really proud of where we got to. We did not come to them with a name. We came to them with a different name. Parch is the best name we could have ever got, but we didn't think of it. They came to us with that plus about 15, 20 more. And it's hard. Names are really personal because you've been living with them for the first 18 months of our project already. But when we heard this, for me, I love that it's a very simple word that anyone can pronounce. That's really important. I like the balance of the name. So design wise with the P and the H, how they've designed it. It's English. It's not faux French. So we're not trying to be fancy French or European. We're proudly American made. Um, and it's a word that immediately conjures up salivation, because you say I'm parched, you immediately think of being thirsty and thus quenching that thirst. So I think it works on lots of levels. And we were just lucky it was available, because that's usually the hardest thing with design. And the last thing I'll say is iconography is amazing, but the most critical thing is communication to consumers so they know exactly what they're getting. And that comes down to hierarchy, on a pack. There is a lot on here. So I really think we did an amazing job of communicating the key elements. The one thing, I mean, we've never really had much feedback that I'm confused, or I don't know what it is, or it doesn't deliver on the proposition, um, which is quite surprising, because many people, especially when I worked back in a corporate world, would look at this and just tell you to remove some of the elements because it's too much.
To
But I
be
think we just got it right. What do you think, Rudy?
yeah, too busy. Too busy. They
Too
say
busy. Yeah.
busy. Anyways, so yeah, that's
Good.
yeah, it's a bit of a long story, Kyle, but that is where this we spend, I mean, a lot of time on this. So I think we act fairly quickly in everything that we do, fairly quick. Like decisions are fast. But
Eh,
we take our time in the important things, because we're building a brand that is not, it's not for riding a wave. It's not for just
Right.
18 months or 2 years, and that's it. We're creating a brand that is going to here to stay, and a new generation is going to find this brand as a brand that can rely on to really develop and do complex, layered, great tasting drinks.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like these decisions were made quickly or in haste. It looks like everything's very intentional, but as startups go, you have to make the calls. So
Yeah, of
I
course.
think you've landed in a really solid place from branding to product to look and feel. So congrats on getting that all done. Moving forward into what you're working on today, would love to hear how you're going to market. And when I think about a product like this, the first thing that comes to mind for me is on premise versus off premise. So consumers, I'd say on a broad scale, are waking up to non-alc, but it's still kind of this unknown thing, especially when it comes to cocktails. So would love to hear what you're thinking when it comes to selling at bars and restaurants and nightclubs versus your typical grocery and liquor stores.
I think that we've had a really good track record in acquiring like accounts and natural grocery accounts. I mean, we are right now in about 1,200 by now and counting. We have also placements that are secured for the next 4 months. That is going to take that to adding another 1,000 more, which is wonderful news for us. It's more exposure, it's more responsibility as well to drive velocity, but that is what we have. And to your point about the mix, so that was the majority of it. But this is a product that it really can live in the on-premise environment without any problem. Ila will tell you a story. She was standing up back in July at BevNet in New York, and she won 2023 Beverage Showdown. And one of the judges, which is in a large corporation, the largest, said that this brand it just really fits perfectly and can live like Topo Chico can live in the on-premise environment without no problem. It is seamless view of that is the rightful place for Parch. So we can do that, and we're doing it, and we are seeing that now. For instance, we have Spice Piñarita, which is the one that you're having. We see like different accounts like really serving it up just straight with a nice rimmed glass or and garnish, or making some cocktails out of it and adding more. So we know that the brand RTD can work no problem in that. I'm going to let Lila also unveil something that we're doing that is going to come into the market in about 2 months or month and a half. And then also we have the spirits, and that's something that we cannot forget. We have also in schedule for Q1 of 2025 or Q4 of this year, we're launch a spirit that we have ready, and that was the precursor. I always say, and this is a story that people are like, really? Oh, is that why? So here in our box, we said that it all starts with the spirit, right? And that is not lie. that is true. It started because that's where we started, and then we infused that same type of backbone, black box, into every Parch product. So I think that in the on-premise we have a feature that right now is underdeveloped. In order to get there, we need to get more distribution, like more 3-tier alcohol distributors. We've had some success. We have already 3 distributors that are like super eager and really tuned in what consumers are really demanding nowadays. And I know that there'll be other places and other distributors that are going to come because they're going to realize the power that we have.
So I'll add to the breadcrumbs that Rudy was leaving. So we're launching our 3rd SKU. It's probably the obvious one that's been missing, and it was one of those wake up in the middle of the night moments when I text or we WhatsApp a lot, Rudy and I, like, oh my God, we forgot the most obvious thing, margarita. Because we made Spice Piñarita for ourselves, and then realized it's not the most mainstream flavor. because we never wanted to be too mainstream because it's smoky and spicy. So we made that for ourselves, which is never the most scalable option. Prickly Paloma is our best seller. I like to say spiced Cunarita has a cult following. People who like it love it, but not everyone likes it. And so Desert Margarita will be our third SKU. It's a triple citrus, tamarind, and Sonoran sea salt blend. The triple citrus is tangerine juice, Mexican lime, and orange bitters. So we're really bringing that kind of depth of all parts of the citrus from the Sonoran Desert, and then layering in this incredible salt supplier that we found that's hand harvested wild sea salt that is right in our provenance of the Sonoran Desert. It's an incredible liquid. We kind of secretly did some sips at Expo East, and people really loved it. And so that's going to launch in April. And then we have three really amazing options to get onto menus. When I see menus now, it's really exciting that there even is a section that says non-alc, low, light, simple sippers, whatever people want to call that section on the menu. And it's only going to grow. The data every week, I mean, we just had dry January, is beyond a trend. It is a shift in how people, exactly how you opened this conversation, how people are changing their habits around drinking, and why drinking doesn't only have to mean alcoholic drinks. So that menu space is going to continue to grow. It also means that, bartenders don't always have the time to make such a range of drinks. We've done a lot of the work for them. We're not the right place necessarily for a white tablecloth or a super high scale, upscale craft cocktail bar where they want to really spend the time with these drinks. But everywhere else, we work kind of brought to your table as a Topo Chico bottle, or the Red Bull did, so the can as our brand, or dress it up in a glass with a garnish, like Rudy mentioned. So we're really versatile. We want to be easy and turnkey, and then ideally profitable for on-premise accounts too.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time, and I think when it comes to the non-alc world, beer has been driving the cart forward, particularly athletic brewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as it stands today, when I go out to restaurants, and I look at, I'm a CPG connoisseur like you both, and I look at what's available, and I see a lot of non-alc beers. I don't see non-alc cocktails as much. And that's also why I was super interested to chat with you both, because it does feel, while it's a smaller part of the market, the time to step up and take leadership is up for grabs over the next, I'd say, couple years.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like it's a fascinating paradox of where do you go? Where do you go to build consumer awareness? And the on-premise is, the challenges are just impossible, and it's expensive, and it's a tough channel to operate in. But it is a great place for trial and consumer awareness. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I would just, thinking, if I was in your shoes, it's like, where do you put your bets? Is it overspending for trial, or is it going for distribution? So that was what was on my mind.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, and this brings, I mean, that point, it brings into what the future of that category, non-alcoholic category, could look like. So definitely right now within the segment of non-alcoholic, so beer is the largest, and RTD comes after spirits and wine. However, the rate of growth that we're having as an RTD cocktail segment, it is actually pushing us forward, and we're going to become the number 2 in that segment. So you have the non-alcoholic beer, and then you have RTD, so ready to drink cocktails, and that is clear for the US is consumer dynamics, but also the opportunities for expansion within that format are like the same as it is for alcohol alternatives, right? For the ones that are it is for other ones. So it's really, we've seen that there's a study, it says 78% CAGR in the next 3 years. So definitely there's a lot of momentum within that, and I believe that we're going in the right format, along with when we have the spirits as well. So that is important, and also as a way, of course, like we are attracting investment and all that, and the way that we do it is by having this type of formula that is placed in both off-premise and on-premise would allow us to really have valuations that are like are closer to an alcoholic beverage as opposed to a soft drink. A soft drink would be like 3 4 times maybe at much, and then when you go into alcoholic beverage or adult beverages, you get into the numbers start to climb up to 10 plus.
Yeah, it's a good call out, and it brings us to our last piece of the interview here. Would love to hear from you both what the long-term vision is for Parch. Is this a brand that you plan to build for 10, 20 years, or is this a get it to a decent scale and get out? Would love to hear what the vision is.
Yeah, we're gonna try to grow it and scale it to the point we can. We cannot do it, and then likely somebody is gonna lend a hand. But we are committed. We are trying to build this business in a profitable way and establish it in the rightful space of the consumer. That's what we're trying to do. And right now, we've our track record, as I mentioned briefly, we've had Sprouts coming into play and being placed there, Whole Foods, so only in the Southern Pacific region, but we're there already. We are also adding other accounts that are like natural grocery icons, so I call it. So in the East Coast will be Mom's, and then Texas will be Central Market. Then in California, you go from Lazy Acres, Lassen's, Bristol Farms, and it's growing. And now we'll keep growing that in different areas, even traditional. So I mean, one that we are like super proud of is actually we're going to be in 10% of Walmart locations. So we're going to be in the higher household income locations, and because this is a premium product, but they are like looking for these alternatives, and they don't want to be disappointed with um, the other options. They want to be really drinking what we make. So we're going to be there. And this is a critical year, 2024 for the business. This is where we're going to show the power that we have with the innovation that we come to launch into the market. And then 2025, 2026, it will be a build up, expansion, and distribution. And we are really going hard on premise as well. So there is a lot of opportunities. So still for us as a small business, a startup, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity to grab, and a lot of places that Parch can really fulfill the motivation states of consumers that really are looking for mindful drinking.
I wanted to add just a little bit to that, which is the 3+ year trajectory. So, RTDs are absolutely the core of the business now, and we have an endless roster of ideas that we can add into that SKU mix. So it allows us to do experimentation and test new ideas, which is really fun. It brings a newness. It allows us to do some experimentation with just DTC, which will be fun. And we're also doing some special releases just for certain retailers. That's going to come actually next month with one of our partners. So we've got partnership ideas. But beyond that, the spirits we talked about, and then international. So we've already in less than 2 years been approached by 5 different markets, from pretty established folks who want to bring our product to their market. It's a global shift in drinking, this idea of mindful drinking. But we're really so focused on the US and then Canada, because we have barely scratched the surface. Like you said, there's still so much education, and actually the US is behind Europe in some of these spaces. So I like to quote Germany and Spain, where 24% of the beer consumption is non-alc beer. We're still only like 1% of alcohol consumption is NA in the US. So the opportunity is huge. 93% of consumption comes from alcohol drinkers. So that's the mindful drinker. So we have the opportunity to be purchased alongside a bottle of tequila. Tequila is the fastest growing alcohol category in the US. Our alcoholic RTDs are the biggest now, with High Noon being the most valuable spirit product on the marketplace. Adaptogens are trending with Gen Z, and we have all these elements to come together in our canned product. So we have so much opportunity, and we're one of the few brands that can really live in the on and off premise together, as well as festival spaces, music venues, wellness studios. And we're currently activating in all those spaces right now, including some fun partnerships with Yeti, with Rivian, and with Daybreaker.
Well, you've sold me. I plan to be a more mindful drinker, and it's just very impressive to hear everything that you and your team have built up. So, genuine congratulations, and hope for the best as you move forward. And it was great chatting with you both. So, thank you so much for taking the time, and rooting for you. And I'll buy some more Parch, especially when that next margarita flavor hits the market.
Thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You'll have it. Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
both.
Thanks for your time and thanks for the conversation. And keep enjoying Parch.
Cheers.
Cheers.